So years ago, I had PhD students and master students, and they were in mental health crisis halfway through their PhD. They didn't have the skills that they needed to do their job in the lab. So they had really great experience of the theory, but when it came to the lab, like, they couldn't keep it clean, they didn't know how to get rid of their waste, the pipetting wasn't done properly, they had all of these degrees and masters and stuff coming out their ears, but actually when it came to lab skills they didn't have it. So BioGrad started for me as a maternity pet hobby, and when my son was born, I'd just come off maternity leave, and I decided to set up a tiny little maternity hobby. And that was, I was going to teach PhD students how to do real skills in a real lab with real scientists. So while I was on maternity leave, I registered BioGrad. And actually, even for that day, when I look back now, 10 years ago, what photos was I taking on that day? And I thought maybe there'd be something about BioGrad or the registration of it or something. And there wasn't. There was just a picture of me and my baby because I was on maternity leave. And I registered it because I just thought that maybe I'd do a few little training courses and then I'd go back to work. And that's how BioGrad started, because I wanted to teach scientists real science. The company started down in Welwyn Garden City because I was living and working in Cambridge. And in 2015, so a year after we started, we realised that actually maybe this was going to be something. So I relocated up to Liverpool, got the site in Liverpool Science Park, and actually at the beginning, because it was just me on my own, I was doing the website, the training, the cleaning the labs, organising just everything, and I still had my little baby. So in my little office I had a little farmyard set up in the corner, and it had little pet pigs and cows and all of that on one desk, and me and one little lab, and that's what it was like for the first sort of year or so. And I remember thinking on that day, if I ever get staff, I'm going to make sure that childcare is not a problem, because I was a single mum with a baby in the corner. And at the time, I had, my own, I was saving up to buy a house and all that. And I remember thinking, I'm also going to make sure that anybody that works for me can afford to buy their own house. So they were really clear to me right from the early days that if I had a business and if it succeeded and if I had staff, that I was going to run it differently, and I was going to run it for months. In the very early days, for the first year that we were down in Welwyn Garden City, I was still working part-time in research. And then when it became clear that BioGrad was starting to take off and it needed my full-time care and attention, I realised at that point I was going to end up with a laboratory that I could do my own research in, and that was really exciting. So there was always the goal that we would start with the education piece, but then we would utilise the networks through the scientists that we had in our education networks. We'd utilise our laboratories and our equipment so that actually I could start doing the research that I really, really love to do. So the end goal was always whole cell therapies, so stem cells, CAR T cells, CAR NK cell therapies in patients. That's what my background is in translational medicine. But that's a really long journey. And generally people would have to go and fundraise for it and take on shareholders and investors. I think the reason that we have moved so quickly in the market towards stem cell therapies and really have everything realigned now, ready to go, is probably because we did the journey alongside the education business, which meant that I've maintained full control of the company. We don't have any shareholders, we don't have any investors to pay back. Every penny that the company makes, we can reinvest back into the science, which is super exciting to me as a scientist, because I now get to do the science that I always wanted to do. It's really important to remember that in those early days when I set up BioGrad and turned up to Liverpool City Region as a budding entrepreneur with a very small startup and a baby playing in the corner of the office, that Liverpool Science Park gave me 6 months free rent to put my company in here. There's a growth program through Liverpool Growth Platform that engaged with me in around 2018, 2019, that really pivoted the expansion of the business. There were a number of companies in and around Liverpool City Region that gave us contracts for small commercial pieces of research in the early days. I don't know if we'd have been as successful anywhere else in the UK. Liverpool has been our home and will always be our home, and we've got huge plans for the Liverpool City Region, even as we expand outside of that region. But the support that we've had from the combined authority, the council, the growth platform, and Liverpool Science Park, Bruntwood, Scientech, all of those people that have surrounded us in this ecosystem in the Liverpool Knowledge Quarter has really, really helped us grow. And we're now at the stage in our journey where we're looking to move on to the next thing, but also where I want to be an investor and I want to support other female startups and actually create a legacy. Because today we're looking back at what's happened over the last 10 years. I've grown 2 very successful companies, BioGrad and BioGrad Education, with a really big reach. But actually today I'm looking at what we're going to do for the next 10 years. And I really want to help other women do the same.